Well, hello there, and welcome to the channel. My name is Ninja Zane. I'm very excited to share this video today with you. This is going to be a follow-up to a video I made roughly 9 years ago in 2016. That video covered the minimum amount of characters to beat the game in LEGO Dimensions Year 1. At that time, I didn't really know how big the game was going to be. Obviously, the game did get canceled after 2 years. It was supposed to go 3. If you want to watch that video, it is a very outdated video now, and I was a lot younger, but it is linked up in the iCard and in the description below. But we're going to be talking about all the characters that are required to beat the game, and it's 1016 gold bricks. This is going to have a few disclaimers. The first disclaimer is this is a minimum characters guide. That means that if you want to play as like Superman or some other characters, you can, but they are technically not required in the minimum characters guide. There are other character combinations where maybe you can take a couple of these characters out and replace them with other characters, but it might take more than one character to do that. Just because you have to have certain characters to beat the game, and certain characters are needed for certain abilities. It's a little bit confusing, so I'm going to try and clarify it the best I can when I'm talking about each individual pack. There is a total of 40 characters you can see here. This is both from Year 1 and Year 2. Year 1 has the blue bases and Year 2 has the gold bases. There are like 3 or 4 more characters required from Year 2 than Year 1. That is mostly because Year 2 has more franchises than Year 1. Now, if you're watching the video from 9 years ago, which I will have linked in the iCard up above if you want to compare that one to this one, there are some specific characters from that guide that are no longer included. So we're going to take a look specifically at the characters needed to complete the entire game, not just Year 1. We are going to also assume that we're not using Hire a Hero in this guide. So there are some characters that maybe you can hire in the game that might prevent them from being needed in the game. This is assuming we're never going to use Hire a Hero in the game. There are also a couple of weird exceptions with team packs here. Pretty much every team pack that is going to be in this guide, you don't need both characters from the team pack. So if you wanted to buy this off of like Bricklink or something like that, where you only have to buy one of the characters, or you just want to get one of the tags, I know that NFC tags are a thing now, you only technically need one of those characters. So I will talk about which character is needed or preferred in some cases a little bit later when I talk about those individual packs. We're going to go ahead and go in order of the waves that the franchise was introduced in. So there might be a couple of packs that look a little out of order depending on the wave that they were in. That's just because their franchise was introduced in an earlier wave. So we're going to go ahead and get into this video now. Let's talk about our first pack. So we're going to go ahead and get into our first pack here. This is going to be the quintessential pack that you need to play any of this game and any of these characters. You're going to need this pack because it has the game and it has the toy pad, which are going to be 2 essential things to be playing this game. Now this also includes Batman, Gandalf, and Wyldstyle, which are your main 3 characters throughout the course of the LEGO Dimensions story. One fun fact about Batman, Gandalf, and Wyldstyle is technically you don't actually need them to beat the base game. Now you might be wondering, isn't the first thing you need to do putting Batman on the toy pad? Yes, but there's a way around that. If you wait 2 minutes, it actually starts the cutscene, and it does that for Gandalf and Wyldstyle. And there's another point after all 3 of those cutscenes where you need to put Wyldstyle, Gandalf, and Batman on the toy pad again. If you wait 2 minutes for each character again, it gets you past that cutscene. And at that point, you no longer need any of those characters throughout the rest of the game, which is really interesting. Now, Batman is technically required for the LEGO Batman movie story pack, just because you have to do the same thing as the intro of the game. Once again, if you wait 2 minutes, you can technically do this without him, but I believe that he is required for one of the prompts in that pack. But these characters are going to be required anyway. And the reason for that is because Batman, Gandalf, and Wyldstyle are going to be the only characters for their respective worlds. Batman will unlock the DC Comics world, Gandalf will unlock the Lord of the Rings world, and Wyldstyle will unlock the LEGO Movie world. Wyldstyle is also going to be very useful specifically because she has the relic detector ability. There is only one other character in this entire guide, which is going to be very, very close to the end in Wave 8, who has this ability. She is also going to be the only character that can do the Master Build ability, unless you use the Batman that is in the LEGO Movie Batman. Technically, you have to have a red brick to use that.
unless you're using it specifically in the Lego Batman movie world. There are plenty of characters that can do the master build, but they're just not necessary in this game because you have Wyldstyle and she has that ability already. So whenever you are going to have that master build prompt, you are still going to have to use Wyldstyle. But that is the biggest reason of the starter pack. Obviously, it's the way to start the game, and let's go ahead and get into our first real pack. Alright, so the next pack that we're going to talk about here is the Simpsons level pack. This is going to be essential because it is required to play the Simpsons level. That is pretty much the only reason that this pack is required besides the actual world itself. Homer does have some abilities like the Sonic ability, but those are being used by a lot of other characters throughout this guide. So pretty much the only reason he is used is because of this level pack and to get to the Simpsons world. Bart and Krusty are the other characters from this pack, and they are not really needed just because their abilities are covered by other characters throughout the rest of the packs that we're going to be covering. So pretty much if you just want to play the Simpsons world and Simpsons level, this is required to play the game and beat the game, but he's not really used for much else than that. The next pack is one that I was really excited for, but also really disappointed by. That is the Back to the Future level pack. This is required to beat the Back to the Future world and the Back to the Future level. This contains Marty and the hoverboard and the DeLorean. I am not really the biggest fan of this level. It's probably one of my least favorite levels in the game, just because it doesn't really cover very much from the actual movie itself. But that's just about the movie itself. That doesn't mean that this is a required pack, just because Marty is the only character that can access that level. I actually do prefer the Doc Brown Fun Pack, so if you do have the extra money to set aside, I do recommend that pack, because Doc has just a few more abilities than Marty. The only ability that Marty has is the sonar with his guitar, whereas Doc Brown has technology and hacking, and a couple of other fun ones like drone access. And it also has the traveling time machine, which is going to be used by the DeLorean heavily in this playthrough if you wanted to beat the game, just because there's a lot of different times where you're going to time travel, specifically with the DeLorean. We'll talk about the TARDIS in a little bit when we get to Doctor Who. There's a lot of time travel in this game just because of the different franchises that have time travel. That was going to be the Back to the Future level pack. Let's go ahead and get to the next one. And the next pack that we have here is going to be the Portal 2 level pack, and this is actually the first pack of a few different packs that we're going to be talking about where it's the only one of a specific franchise. And this one does contain a Shell from the Portal 2 game. This level is also based around the Portal 2 game and is exclusive to her, so she is going to be required for use for that level. She also has a couple of different vehicles. One of them is a companion cube, so not exactly a vehicle, and the sentry turret. And the companion cube is used a few different times throughout the game to collect quite a few different gold bricks and mini kits in the base game as well as in the Portal 2 level. So that is going to be a required item, as well as Shell, who is going to be used all the time in the game for the portal gun. That is about the only ability she has. I think she also can do acrobatics, so she can go on different poles to jump around, and she has a double jump. But other than that, those are the only abilities that Shell has. But she is going to be very vital for the game because she is the only character to unlock the Portal 2 world, which is very extensive. It's one of the only worlds that is top to bottom versus a lot of them are just very, very spacious around in terms of the mass area. But this is going to be exclusive for Portal 2's Shell, and that is why she is required in the game. Let's go ahead and get into our next pack. Alright, so we were finally past the level packs in Wave 1. We're finally getting to some of the other packs. Now we're going in order of the worlds that they appear in Vorton now by Wave. So we're going to be talking about the Legends of Chima world. There is only one character required for this world, and that is going to be Kragger. Now the reason we're going with Kragger here is because he is the only character that can go underwater. All of the Chima characters do have the Chi ability, but Kragger is the only one that can use it underwater. And Chi is definitely used heavily throughout the game as well, so this is one that's going to be essential, as well as unlocking the Chima world. But that is pretty much the only reason you're going to need Kragger. He also does have the super strength ability, just like Homer Simpson. That's about the other abilities that he has. He has a sword, so he can deflect lasers as well. But there are not too many abilities needed with Kragger besides the Chi, And like I said, he is the only one that can go underwater. So let's go ahead and get into the next pack. Alright, so the next pack we're going to be talking about here is kind of the weirdest one that we're going to have in this video, and that is the Ninjago franchise. Specifically because any pack can be used to beat this game for Ninjago. I chose Zane. Obviously my username is Ninja Zane. He is my favorite ninja. I like the character himself in the game, so I have chosen Zane, but you can technically use any character from this franchise. The biggest ability needed from this franchise is the Spinjitzu ability, which is used heavily throughout the game, but it has 7 characters basically who can use it, which are Kai and Cole, Zane, Jay, Sensei Wu, Nia, and Lloyd. All of these characters have the Spinjitzu ability. If you want to use the cheapest method, you can use Zane, Sensei Wu, Jay, Lloyd, and Nia. Now the reason I chose Zane is because he is the only ninja that can do underwater Spinjitzu. Now this ability is technically not needed for any gold bricks in the game, but it's the ability that I prefer, and also he can swim underwater and none of the other ninja can do that. So it gives you another character to use to swim underwater, especially because he has the boomerang ability underwater, which only one other of these characters does, as well as X-ray vision, which also one character does have. If you want to give a little bit more variety, you can use this. The other character I recommend is Jay. Jay is useful for one of the gold bricks in the Wizard of Oz world, as well as the lightning ability that's not used by a ton of characters. So that is another character that I would recommend if you're just going with one character. Feel free to choose another pack if you don't want to use Zane, but that's just the one that I preferred. So let's go ahead and get into the next franchise and pack. And the next pack that we have here is going to be the Wizard of Oz Fun Pack. This is the only pack of this franchise, and it contains the Wicked Witch of the West. And one of the reasons I really do enjoy the Wicked Witch of the West is she is basically your Gandalf replacement in this game. She does every single ability that Gandalf has. In addition, she can also fly, and she can destroy Silver Lego Blow-Up. So if you wanted to use Silver Lego Blow-Up, this is the first character, I believe, in this list that has the ability to do that, as well as the first flying character. There are going to be a few flying characters, but not a ton from this specific guide, so definitely want to use those wisely because flying is very, very heavily used throughout this game, especially if you want to get gold bricks faster. And the nice thing about the Wicked Witch is if you want to do the different magic items that Gandalf could do, and illumination and some of the other things, you could use her instead of Gandalf, and Gandalf basically just becomes obsolete by using the Wicked Witch. The only reason Gandalf would be used because you have the Wicked Witch is just for his world, and you can even technically use her in the main story and replace Gandalf. She also is the only character to unlock the Wizard of Oz world, which is kind of cool because you have the Wizard of Oz itself, and then you have Kansas that you can explore, so definitely one of the fun worlds, but she is going to be required for that and all of the gold bricks in that. And let's go ahead and get into our next pack. Alright, so the next franchise we're going to talk about here is the Scooby-Doo franchise, and this is going to be one pack again, but it is a team pack, and you technically don't need both characters from this team pack. This team pack includes Scooby and Shaggy. The preferred character is going to be Scooby here, and the reason for that is Scooby can swim, as well as he can dig underwater, as well as track underwater. Now Shaggy can track and he can do illumination, but those are about the only two abilities he has, and he cannot swim underwater. So Scooby is going to be the preferred character here. It also unlocks the Scooby-Doo world, and this is the only pack that does that. So you are going to have at least one of these characters if you do want to beat the game. So I would recommend Scooby over Shaggy, but if you want to get both of them, you also can do that as well. Let's go ahead and get into the next pack. So the next pack that we have here is going to be the Jurassic World team pack. This one is definitely required as well, just because it is the only pack that is able to unlock the Jurassic World. Now also, like the last pack, you don't need both of these characters. You only really need Owen or the ACU Trooper. It doesn't matter which one you have. The preferred character that I have here is going to be Owen, just because he can do the tracking as well as the vine cut. He was the only character that could do vine cut in year 1. However, with year 2, now Finn can do that as well. So this kind of gives you an extra character to do vine cut. If you want to use the ACU Trooper, he's one of the only characters that is in this guide to use lightning. So he's the preferred character if you want to use lightning specifically. If you just are going with one of the two characters, like I said, I do recommend having both of them just because it is coming in the same pack. Both of these technically are not required, so the preferred character would be Jurassic World's Owen Grady, but this is technically a required pack because it unlocks the Jurassic World. Let's go ahead and get into the next pack. Alright, so we're finally getting into Wave 2 here of LEGO Dimensions, and this is going to be the first franchise where we actually are going to talk about two different packs. So the first pack that's in this franchise is going to be the Doctor Who level pack. And the reason this is required is because of the Doctor Who level, and is also required because of the TARDIS. The TARDIS, like the DeLorean, is used throughout the game to travel between dimensions and between time. It is definitely required to use throughout the game, as well as the Doctor is used heavily throughout his level pack. The Doctor also has the Fix-It ability, which is very helpful to have because he does it a lot faster than some of the other people that have Fix-It. So I definitely recommend the Doctor for that. He also has the Sonar ability, which quite a few characters do have, but that one is very useful because it kind of works a little bit faster than some of the other ones. So let's go ahead and get into the second pack of this franchise. Alright, so the second pack that we're going to be talking about from the Doctor Who franchise is going to be the Cyberman. Now the reason the Cyberman is required is because he is the only character that can do hacking underwater, which is a required ability for a couple of different gold bricks on underwater worlds. The one that I'm specifically thinking of right now is the Scooby-Doo world. I know that there is one underwater that does require him, so it is someone that you can hire technically if you really don't want to use him, but if you wanted to do it without hiring, you're going to need Cyberman for that ability specifically. Let's go ahead and get into the next franchise. Alright, so now we are on to Wave 3 of LEGO Dimensions, and this next pack is going to be Ghostbusters, the original from 1984. It is really interesting because there's two different types of Ghostbusters in this game, and this is from the original. So this actually has two required packs. The first one is going to be the Ghostbusters level pack with Peter Venkman, and Peter does have the ability to change into the other Ghostbusters from the original movie, which is great. He is pretty much only needed for the Ghostbusters level. He does have the Ghost Trap to collect the ghosts, which was a very useful ability in year 1. However, the Ghostbusters 2016, which is the next Ghostbusters franchise I will be talking about, actually is a lot better in terms of collecting ghosts more efficiently. So we will talk about that a little bit later once we get to that pack. But this is Peter Venkman, who is required for the Ghostbusters level pack. And the next pack that we have here from the Ghostbusters franchise is going to be Slimer. And Slimer originally came from Wave 5. Slimer was one of the last packs required for the game, actually the last pack required for year 1 to complete the game. He was required for originally 3 gold bricks in year 1, which was one in the Ghostbusters world that required his underwater sonar smash. There's one in the Legends of Chima world, which requires him to go through a trail of ghosts, basically, underwater, which is still required for him. And there's also one in the Scooby-Doo world. I did find a workaround for that one in a video that will be linked in the iCard right now. However, it does require characters that are not on this list. So if you wanted to go around that, I don't recommend it if you want to go for the bare minimum amount of characters, especially because you still need Slimer for a different gold brick. Get the Legends of Chima world. Like I said, if you want to click on the iCard up above, you can see the video for that one. But Slimer is still required for those gold bricks. He's also going to be our only character that can go underwater and go through mini access, I believe, in this tutorial, as well as the boomerang ability. Now, Zane does also have the boomerang ability, which I did mention earlier, but he's technically not required and can be interchanged. But he moves a lot faster than Zane underwater, so I do prefer him for using that. He can also get rid of the hazards underwater. I don't believe any other character in this specific tutorial can do that. Normally, you can use Aquaman. However, Aquaman has been taken out of this tutorial from the previous guide, so Slimer is going to be the only one in this specific guide to be able to do Hazard Cleaner underwater, which I believe is just going to be for that Scooby-Doo gold brick, but I might be mistaken on that one. But let's go ahead and get into the next pack. And the next pack that we have here is going to be the final pack we're talking about from year 1 specifically, and that is going to be the Midway Arcade level pack. This is required specifically for the Midway Arcade level and the Midway Arcade world. And the Midway Arcade machine is actually used for not really many gold bricks specifically, but it is actually going to be used for a specific gold brick in the Lego Batman movie world, where you have to play Spy Hunter. And it also is used for the Midway Arcade games in all of the Midway Arcade levels in the Midway Arcade world, and also the base game has a bunch of levels that require it if you want to unlock the games in the Midway Arcade world. If you want to play those levels, it's not really required to get 1016 gold bricks, but if you do want to play with the Midway Arcade games, you do need that pack specifically for that, but you're also going to need it to get to the Midway Arcade world, so this pack is still required for the Gamer Kid specifically. So let's go ahead and now transition over to year 2. And our first pack from year 2 is going to be Ghostbusters 2016's story pack, including Abby Yates. Abby Yates is the only character from the Ghostbusters 2016 world, so this is going to be a required pack for you, as well as the story pack, which was a new concept introduced into year 2, which contains 6 levels, which is a ton of gold bricks in addition to the world. Like I said before with Peter Venkman, Abby Yates is going to be the preferred way to collect ghosts in this game. There are a lot of ghost kind of missions in this game where you have to trap ghosts, specifically in like certain quests and certain other levels. The benefit of using Abby Yates versus Peter Venkman is Abby Yates can do it all on her own, whereas Peter Venkman was required to use the ghost trap anytime that he wanted to collect ghosts. So a first world problem, but it did require another vehicle being on the base at the same time and also moving the ghosts into that specific base, whereas Abby Yates was able to just collect them on her person. So that is going to be the benefit of Abby Yates. Other than that, there is a couple of new abilities introduced into year 2, like intelligence, that has been able to been used, and also she has a couple of other alternate forms with all the Ghostbusters that can do different abilities as well. But that was the Ghostbusters 2016 story pack. And the next franchise that we have here is going to be Adventure Time, which does require 2 different packs. The first one being the Adventure Time level pack. Now the reason that this pack is required is because it does unlock a level, and it also has Finn. Finn is a very, very, very good character. He does have a lot of abilities. He has all the different swords. He also unlocks Fern. Fern doesn't really do too much. It was introduced in Wave 9, but Fern doesn't really do much in terms of differences with Finn. However, Finn introduced a lot of swords. The biggest one also would be Pole Vault. He is the reason that Sensei Wu is no longer required. He was previously required from year 1 or Legolas, but Sensei Wu is the one that I had from the last year's guide, and he takes the place of that by using his pole vault with the bow and arrow that he has. He also has the Vine Cut, like I said, which makes Owen Grady not as much required anymore because of that ability. And he also has quite a few other swords that can be used, and he is going to be used a lot for his sword specifically, which is used in different puzzles throughout the game, as well as the Demon Sword and a couple of other abilities with him. He also has the gold laser. We have had a couple of other people that do the gold laser with Abby Yates and Peter Venkman, but other than that, that's pretty much been the only people that have the laser ability so far. So that is also another good ability to have with Finn if you want to not have to use other characters. We have another pack that's also necessary from Adventure Time. And the other pack that is required in the Adventure Time world is going to be the Adventure Time Team Pack, which includes Jake and Lumpy Space Princess. Now, Lumpy Space Princess is not technically required in this game like all the other team packs that I have mentioned so far. She just is not required because she doesn't really have a ton of abilities. The only big ability that she would be valuable for is the Rainbow Bricks ability. However, we have another character that we're going to talk about later that has this ability. But if you wanted to use a second character with that ability, Lumpy Space Princess would be the preferred one to use that. We also have Jake here, which is going to be one of the best characters in the game. He has probably the most abilities out of any character in the entire game. The only one that compares to him is Marceline, who is also not in this tutorial just because she's not really needed, even though she has all the abilities in the world. But Jake does have a couple of abilities to note. The first ability would be the Gyrosphere Switch ability. Now, technically, if you have the Jurassic World Team Pack and you use both characters, you also have the Gyrosphere itself from the ACU Trooper. But if you want to just use a character, it is a lot more convenient to use Jake specifically for that. But you're also going to need Jake for the Drill ability. We previously needed Emmett for the Drill ability in year 1. However, with this pack, you can take Emmett out and put Jake in. And even on top of all of that, Jake is still required because of BMO. BMO is similar to the Midway arcade cabinet, in which case it plays some games, and it is required for a few gold bricks in the game, specifically where you're going to need to plug in BMO and play a game to get a gold brick. So Jake is required for that because that is going to be Jake's vehicle specifically. Definitely, if you wanted to just get Jake, I would recommend that over getting both Jake and the Lumpy Space Princess. But if you have, the team pack and you just want to get the team pack, you can get that as well. But that is why Jake and the Lumpy Space Princess team pack is required in LEGO Dimensions. Let's go ahead and get into our next franchise. And the next pack we're going to talk about here that is required is the Mission Impossible level pack. A lot of the packs coming up here in the LEGO Dimensions Year 2 are very self-explanatory because they only really have one character or pack available to get. And this is one of those examples where the level pack for Mission Impossible is the only pack around. So we're going to be needing this pack especially for Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt has quite a few abilities that are exclusive to him, including the disguise ability and the ability to do the Mission Impossible maze kind of thing. Those are both abilities that are exclusive to Ethan Hunt, as well as he has his own world and a level that are both required to get the 1016 gold bricks. And that is why that pack is required. Let's go ahead and get to our next pack. And the next pack that we have here is going to be the Harry Potter Fun Pack, which includes Hermione. Now this pack was actually introduced in Wave 8, but the franchise was introduced in Wave 6. So this is why we're talking about that pack a little bit sooner than it normally would be. But this pack specifically has Hermione, and the reason we're going with this one over the Harry Potter team pack is because the abilities that are exclusive to Harry Potter and Voldemort are actually used later by another character that I will mention. There's really only one, which is the Parseltongue ability, and I'll mention that a little bit later with the character who has that ability. But Hermione still has all of the normal wizarding abilities that all of the characters do, with the Diffindo and the Apparate Access. And she's also one of the first characters to talk about so far that has the water ability, where she can grow plants and also do other things that are required with the water ability specifically with her magic wand. And that is why we use this pack. Once again, this is just a minimum characters guide, so if you wanted to go with the Harry Potter team pack rather than this, if you really like Harry Potter and Voldemort and Harry Potter actually are preferred characters. However, since they are not required, we don't have them in this guide. So if you ever wanted to get that pack, you can get that pack instead of this one and still beat the game totally fine, because both of those characters have flying and Hermione does not. Currently, we only have a couple of characters so far that even can fly, so definitely would help with a couple more flying characters in the game. But currently, if you just wanted to get this pack specifically, it is going to be technically less from at least what the original game cost was, with $15 versus $25, since this was only one character versus two in the team pack. So this is why we go with Hermione. Let's go ahead and get into the next franchise. And the next franchise we have here is going to be the A-Team, which once again only has one pack, so we have to get this specific pack in order to unlock the A-Team world in LEGO Dimensions. This pack includes B.A. Baracus, and the only ability really to note here is going to be the A-Team Master Build, which is specifically used with B.A. Baracus and no other character can use it. He does have a few other abilities like the Silver Lego Blow Up that we haven't really mentioned too much here since quite a few characters have it, but he can use that. He can also do the Fix It ability, which just is a lot slower than some of the other characters like Doctor Who can do Fix It much faster than him. Once again, just a little bit of an inconvenience thing. So if you really just, wanted to use B.A. Baracus to repair things, you can. It's just going to be a little bit slower. He's very, very useful if you want to use the A-Team Master Build ability, and of course you're going to need him to get into the A-Team world. But other than that, he's not too much of use, so you won't use him a ton in the game, but he is our A-Team character. Let's go ahead and get into the next wave and next franchise. And now we are into Wave 7. And with our Wave 7 first pack, we have the story pack of that wave, which is the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them story pack, which includes Newt Scamander as well as Niffler. Once again, with the last story pack, this unlocks 6 levels as well as the world. Now there technically are 2 packs that unlock the world, but Newt is the only one that actually unlocks the story pack itself, so he has to be used in order to use that. He also has a couple of unique abilities that are used specifically with just him, and abilities that are needed in the story pack itself, as well as a few gold bricks throughout the rest of the game. So that is why Newt is required. Definitely one of the highly needed ones from year 2, just because it has so many gold bricks tied to it. But let's go ahead and get to the next pack. And the next pack that we have here is going to be our Sonic level pack. Sonic is, once again, like other packs here, the only way to get into the Sonic world. He also has a level with the Sonic level pack. The Sonic Dimensions level in the game is one of my favorites in the franchise. Quick plug there, because I really enjoy it. So definitely enjoy that level if you play this pack. And if you have played this pack, it's definitely one of my favorites. All the cutscenes are great. All the different things in that specific game level is just phenomenal. I love the world itself as well. There's just a lot to do with him. Sonic is also used for a bunch of different Sonic races throughout the rest of the game. There's a few in E.T. and Teen Titans and a couple of other franchises as well where you can use him. And he's the only one that can do the grind rails that we're going to have in this tutorial. Technically, Legolas as well can do it. Legolas also, there's no really reason to use the grind rails ability either, because he does it so slow. So I never really understood why he had that ability either, but Sonic is going to be used for all of his Sonic races as well as the level and world. So let's go ahead and get into the next pack. And the next pack and franchise we have from Wave 7 is going to be the Gremlins Team Pack. Like all of the other team packs, only one of these characters is required, and technically with this one, there's not really a set requirement on which one you need. Just take your preference. My preference here would be Gizmo, just because I like Gizmo a little bit more than Stripe. Gizmo has the targeting ability as well as mini access, whereas Stripe has a couple of other abilities like acrobatics. Not a ton with either of these characters in terms of abilities, so you're not really going to be going into this pack expecting a ton of abilities. You're going into this pack just getting a new world out of it. The Gremlins world is also a world that I really recommend because it does have Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2 in it, which is really cool. This is just a pack that is needed for one of these characters. Obviously, if you're getting the team pack, you'll get both of the characters, but you don't really need both. You just really need one of these characters in order to beat the game. And let's go ahead and get into the last pack of Wave 7. And the last pack of Wave 7, before we get into the future waves, is going to be E.T. Now E.T., like a lot of the other worlds, is the only character to unlock the E.T. world. So we're going to be using E.T. to get into there. Other than that, he does have mini access. We haven't seen a ton of characters with mini access, so it is nice to have another one with that ability. He also can do stealth, and he can do the fix-it ability, which is kind of cool, but other than that, he doesn't really have a ton of abilities to use, so mostly just going to be used for the actual world that he unlocks. But the world of E.T. is a nice world as well. Very nice to visit when you're playing in the game. Other than that, E.T. is not really used too much in the game, but he is definitely a fun one to have and is a requirement if you want to get all 1016 gold bricks. And on to Wave 7.5, which is one of the weirdest waves that I'd ever heard of when I heard that that was a thing. But that was before we heard that the game was canceled, so it makes a little bit more sense now, but still. Wave 7.5. And the first pack is actually the Knight Rider Fun Pack. So we're not talking about the story pack first from the Lego Batman movie. It's kind of weird. I went in the game order, so this is just how the order ended up here. But for this pack specifically, we have Michael Knight, who is the only character in this pack. He also includes KITT, which is the famous car from that franchise. That was one of my favorite shows growing up. My dad showed me this show and I was really into it. And when I saw the world, I was a little bit disappointed. It was not really as vast as I thought it was going to be. And there's just some things that I wish that they get done better with Knight Rider. But Michael Knight does have a few abilities that you can use, pretty much all using Kit, because he has the handy dandy watch. So he has like X-ray vision and hacking and a couple of other abilities. So you might use him a few times throughout the game. The Kit car is actually really good to use throughout the game. I do like Kit. Kit has the regular version as well as a flying version, which is really cool to use. I haven't talked too much about the vehicles in this game, but that one is a good one to use if you are looking for a specific vehicle from this guide to use just generally, just because it does have a couple of different variants. The other one that I really enjoy that is not actually technically in this guide is the Enchanted Car. So if you ended up getting the Harry Potter team pack, the Enchanted Car is one of my favorite vehicles because you can use the car and you can fly with the car. But once again, that's only if you have the Harry Potter team pack. But there are some other vehicle combinations that are very, very fun. Let's go ahead and get into the next franchise. And the next franchise here is going to be our final story pack of the game. And this was a weird story pack when I heard it was coming out because it actually has 2 characters versus 1. This one has both Batgirl and Robin, and you also are going to need the original Batman for this story pack. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video where we were talking about the starter pack, you use the original Batman figure in order to play with this. And there's actually a red brick that allows you to play as Batman always, which I always thought was an interesting red brick, but they just seemed like they were running out of ideas for red brick combinations, which I thought they should have gone with just like studs times 6 or studs times 8, but I don't know why they introduced the always Batman red brick. It just was interesting to me when they introduced it, especially since they didn't do that same thing for Teen Titans when you have alternate versions there. So another confusing thing that I was just kind of baffled by, but this is definitely required in order to get to the Lego Batman Movie Story Pack, which includes 6 levels, as well as it is also required for the Lego Batman Movie World. So if you wanted to beat the game, you're going to need to have both of these characters. The Nightwing and Batgirl characters are also nice to have. They do have a couple of exclusive abilities for just them, so they also are going to be used throughout the game to get some gold bricks as well. And let's go ahead and get into the next wave and next franchise. And now we are finally to the actual Wave 8, which there is a couple of packs here in Wave 8 we will talk about. And the first one here is going to be the Goonies level pack. And the Goonies level pack does include Sloth. Sloth has a couple of abilities that are useful, but not too many, but he is going to be required for the level pack itself, and he's also going to be required for the world. And it is nice that Sloth can turn into all of the different Goonies. I always thought that that was cool because there was 8 of them. That was the most amount of characters that someone could turn into at the time, and it still is the most characters that you can turn into from just the one figure, which I always thought was cool. But there's not really a ton of abilities that are not covered so far here. But the organ is another vehicle that is going to be used a couple of times throughout the rest of the game. I know that there's specifically an example in Knight Rider that I'm thinking of, and just a couple of other gold bricks throughout the game. But that is going to be why Sloth is required. And once again, only pack in that franchise, so you're going to need him anyway. And the other pack from Wave 8 that we're going to be discussing here is the Chase McCain Fun Pack from the Lego City Undercover World. And Chase is going to be one of those characters that is very, very vital to using in the game. He's a character with a lot of abilities, kind of like Jake. And the nice thing about Chase is all of the different uniforms that he can kind of change into. You do have to unlock those uniforms in the actual Lego City world, but those uniforms are the fireman, construction worker, farmer, miner, and the astronaut. And that just gives him a ton of abilities, especially as the astronaut who can fly around the world and different other worlds. So that is one of those outfits that I would definitely unlock sooner rather than later, just because there's only so many flying characters in this specific guide. And he is going to be required anyway because you have to unlock the Lego City world, and he is the only character to do that. He also has the relic detector ability. He is only going to be the second character to have that ability. The other character that also has that is going to be Bad Cop. up, but he is just not in this specific guide because he is not really useful otherwise than the relic detector ability, because the only other ability he has is the target and laser, so just not really a useful character overall. And Chase is just going to be much more useful than that. With just all of the different abilities he has, he also can do Silver Lego Blow Up as one of his outfits. He also can do the drill, so we do have a secondary character other than Jake who has that drill ability. However, Jake is still going to be required for that BMO pack and the other stuff that we have mentioned before, like the gyrosphere, but it is nice to have a secondary character with the drill ability. He can also do the growth because of the fireman ability with the water, which is nice to have because we've only talked about a couple of characters with that so far. And he also can do the hacking ability as the astronaut. So just very, very extensive abilities with Chase specifically. And he is definitely one of those characters that I used all the time. You can even see it in some of the videos that I've made recently where I have to use the relic detector ability specifically with Chase because he's just one of the only characters that uses that. And that's why we're going to be using Chase. Let's go ahead and get into our final wave, Wave 9. And we are finally into Wave 9, and Wave 9 is going to contain our last 3 franchises and 3 packs. So the first franchise here is going to be Teen Titans Go, specifically Teen Titans Go and not the original Teen Titans. You can definitely tell when you see the game that it is Teen Titans Go and not Teen Titans. I know a lot of people have a lot bigger of a preference to Teen Titans than Teen Titans Go. This pack is going to be the team pack specifically for Raven and Beast Boy. This is, like other team packs, one that is only needed for one character again. And the character here is definitely going to be Raven. The character Raven is needed because she has the Raven portals and is the only character in the entire game to be able to use it. There are a couple of gold bricks where you can maybe get around that. I have a guide on one in the 8-team world where you can do that, but there are plenty of other gold bricks that are only going to be used with Raven, and there's no glitches around them or anything like that. And this guide's also not really talking about glitches anyway, so Raven will still be required for that if you wanted to get the gold bricks naturally and not have to work around them or anything like that. So Raven's definitely going to be necessary in order to beat the game because of her Raven portal ability. She also has the Lantern Construct ability. There are a couple of other characters that we're going to get to next that do also have the Lantern Construct ability, but Raven's mostly going to be used for that portal ability. She also does have a couple of other ones though that are useful. The Lightning ability is also going to be a very, very useful one for her. The Lightning ability we haven't really touched on too much except for the ACU Trooper. If you want to use the lightning ability and fly at the same time, Raven is definitely going to be the only person to use that, so useful definitely in that way. The other character in this pack is Beast Boy. He is not really as much required. He does have some cool abilities because he can turn into different animals, like he can fly and he can go into the drone mazes, he can swim. He is the first character to have the Atlantis ability that we've talked about so far, but in the next pack we're going to talk about a different character that also has that ability. So if you want another character to be able to use the Atlantis ability, he is nice to have. Otherwise, if you only want to get one character from this pack, Raven is going to be the person that you are going to be required to get. Now let's go ahead and get into our second to last pack. And in our second to last pack, we have the Powerpuff Girls team pack, which includes Blossom and Bubbles. Now there's also a fun pack that includes Buttercup. We are specifically going with the team pack because it's a little more efficient than the fun pack. Bubbles has a few abilities that we're going to be mentioning here. Lasers and flying. I believe this is the first combination of lasers and flying we've seen. Maybe Raven is the other character we've seen so far with that. Bubbles also has the sonar ability, which a few other characters do have, but not many have underwater. Slimer does, and she does, but I believe that is it in this game. She also is going to be used for the Atlantis ability. I mentioned again, Beast Boy does have that. And then the other ability that she's going to be used for is the Parseltongue ability. So Parseltongue is the ability that I mentioned earlier with the Hermione Fun Pack. Hermione actually does not have Parseltongue, but Bubbles does. This was a weird one when I saw that, mostly just because the developers were just kind of at that point giving characters random abilities, in my opinion, just because the game was struggling and, you know, they had to end up canceling, obviously. But I just thought that that was very interesting when they did that. Bubbles is needed for the Parseltongue ability, and just different combinations of abilities make her very, very valuable over other packs. So technically, if you really wanted to, you can also change out a couple of different packs for this. She's mostly going to be used for that Parcel Tongue ability. She's going to be used for the Rainbow Brick ability. She's also going to be used for the Atlantis ability. She's the main character that I used when I was doing a playthrough with those abilities, especially once year 2 was involved. She basically replaced Aquaman as well as Unikitty in this tutorial here from year 1. There's also Blossom in this. Blossom is not really quite as useful. Both characters do have the Lantern Construct ability as well, so that is nice, but Blossom really just, if you want to use her as kind of like a Superman character, she kind of does have the Superman abilities. She has the laser vision and the freeze breath, so if you really wanted like a Superman type character, you can use Blossom, but otherwise she's technically not really required. As pretty much every team pack I've mentioned, only one character is required. In this case, Bubbles is definitely going to be your preferred character. She just has a lot of other abilities that are very useful, and also this is going to be required for getting into the Powerpuff Girls world. And let's go ahead and go into our final pack of this tutorial. And the final pack that we have here for this specific character buying guide is going to be Beetlejuice from the Beetlejuice world. He is the only pack that was created ever for this franchise, so he's going to be required. There's not really much more to say with this one. There's not really too many abilities that he has that are really advantageous or anything like that. He unlocks his world, and that's about all that he does, but he is a nice character to have in addition to some of the other ones, but he doesn't really have a ton of abilities. He does have super strength and a couple of other ones. He has ghost immunity, so technically you can get him through ghosts if you really wanted to. There's not really a big usefulness for that, but technically you can do that with him. But other than that, he's not really used too much throughout the game. And that's all the packs here that we're going to be talking about that are required on all 40 characters. We're going to go ahead and get into an outro.
And that is it. That is all the characters that are going to be required to beat LEGO Dimensions with the minimum amount of characters possible. So I hope that you guys enjoyed all of the different characters that we talked about. If you guys are going to be trying to complete this game with just these characters, I'm curious in the comments below, just share that you were able to do this with these characters. I'm also going to be making a series that is going to be featuring just these characters. Like I said earlier, only one character per team pack is required, so we're going to be only using the one character in each team pack and then all of these. So a total of 35 characters to beat the game. So highly recommend to check out that series. It's going to be airing on September 1st as the first episode, and we will have episodes for the month of September and beyond for LEGO Dimensions 10th anniversary. If you are watching this video after that time, you can already see those on the channel. You can also see the playlist of everything in the links in the description. This is going to be the first video in that playlist, so you can definitely look at the rest of the videos in the playlist to check out that series. Also in the description below, if you do not like some of these character choices that I have, there is a tracker online on a Google spreadsheet that you can do that tracks the characters that you have and the specific abilities. Because there are certain packs here that can be exchanged for other ones. There are those mandatory packs, mostly the ones where it's the only pack in a certain franchise, but there are specific other ones like the Harry Potter team pack that can be exchanged for someone like Hermione because they might have more abilities or whatever the case may be. There is a tracker online where you can check and see if that character list that you have specifically is one that would be able to 100% the game. But this is just the list that is going to be the minimum amount again, and I will be showing that in that series that is coming out. So highly recommend that you watch that as well. But I always recommend that you like, comment, and subscribe. This has been one of my most ambitious projects of this channel so far, and if you enjoy this content, you would definitely enjoy a lot of the other videos that are on my channel, so definitely stay tuned for some more content like this. But I appreciate you. Thank you for liking this video and subscribing. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.